Welcome to the Beyond Cinema Studio presented by Celebs.com up here at TIFF. Liz Garbus, firstly congratulations on having Love Marilyn up here. Out of 17 or so docs that you've now made over time, where does this one rank?
Oh, number one.
Number one and most recent.
There's no other answer. We love all our children the same. No, yeah.
What made you want to spend time with this? Is it something that came to you as an opportunity, or did you go after it?
Do you want to spend time with Marilyn Monroe?
I would, yeah.
Okay.
I would like to spend time with her now at age, whatever she would be.
86.
I think she'd be quite the character.
86,
right now.
Yeah, she'd be awesome. No, the project presented itself to me in the form of the discovery of a whole bunch of documents, letters, notes, poems, diaries that had been recently unearthed by the people who were taking care of her estate, the Strasbergs.
Right.
And there was an opportunity they were being published in a book form, and there was an opportunity to use them for a film. And I had not been a Marilyn Monroe devotee or buff. I did not know all the conspiracy theories, all the trivia, I wasn't that person. But when I read one of the letters, it was a letter she wrote in December 1961, 8 months before she would die. And she wrote a letter to Lee Strasberg, her acting teacher and very, very close friend, saying that she had plans. She wanted to start her own production company. She had already spoken to Marlon Brando about it, and would Lee Strasberg move to California so the three of them could start an independent production unit. And she had ideas for what types of projects they would take on, and that her lawyers had organized the business structure, and that it could be a great opportunity for her, Marlon, and Lee. And I thought, I don't really know anything about this woman. She's a creator of her own content. She's a driver of her career. I didn't know anything about that Marilyn. And then, so the process of getting to know her was a process of discovery of a real human being.
And there's a couple of moments in the documentary where it really hit home to me about that. And one of them was you kind of really brought home her single-mindedness in her pursuit of this career. And that's something that never really struck home to me, is how much she wanted this specific career.
Right, she was driven more as an actress than as anything else. I think people think of her as a model, of course, and and people think of her as a comedian. But to be an actress and to play dramatic roles, that was really her goal. And I think if you look at Marilyn's short but incredibly prolific career, what you see it characterized as a desire to improve. She wasn't someone who was educated. She educated herself. She was cast in sort of narrow roles. She pushed the boundaries on that, trying to get better roles. So she was constantly pushing the envelope of her career and constantly trying to sort of to take control of it. I mean, she had handlers, agents, managers, but she walked under her contracts with Fox because she didn't like the part she was being given.
And that's like the amazing thing too, is how she got started, or how her fame went from being middling to being superstardom and absolute superstardom, is that she had these photos, these naked photos that were leaked. And of course, having that happen, you think, well, isn't this the same thing that's happened to, like, essentially Kim Kardashian or Paris Hilton, where they're launched into the spotlight by these kind of, like, more on a path to infamy, but that she then took the path to better herself and make sure she was talented enough to respond to the real work that followed.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting episode in her career, because in 1952 she's just become this big, big star, and then photos that she'd taken 3 years ago, when she was still 3 years prior, when she was still a nobody, surface in Playboy, these nude photos, and it's of course the biggest story, and everybody wanted her to say, no, I'm sorry, that's not me. But she decided to embrace them and say, that was me, I needed to make a living. And this is 1952. I mean, it's not 2012. It's the 1950s gray flannel suit, pre-sexual revolution American culture, and that was bold and shocking. And but that's what Marilyn did. She pushed the boundaries.
And it seems to me, though, also that we're constantly finding, just like we are with musicians or whatever, like every year it seems like something else gets unearthed, something else gets unearthed. Like whether it's a movie or some sort of sex tape that gets bought and buried at some big auction house. Is it ever going to be the case? I mean, the fascination stems from the fact, this is what was in the documentary as well that fascinated me, is that when someone has a complete life, we look at the past and we honor it, but when someone has a future that's taken away from them, there are so many what ifs that we can ask that we never have, you know, enough. We're never satiated because we're always wondering what if.
What was the promise that was yet to come? I mean, we feel that way about presidents who were assassinated. I think we feel that way about Marilyn Monroe. And because she never aged. I mean, she was frozen in time. And so there's a longing to kind of fill that in with fantasy and, you know, an end to this narrative. And certainly that's one of the reasons she endures the way she does. But also she endures the way she does because she was so phenomenal at what she did. She was such a brilliant comedian. She was a dumb blonde who was smarter than you. She was a force from a PR point of view. She managed her career quite brilliantly. So you know, she was also a master of her own creation.
I like, you know, Muhammad Ali called himself the greatest of all time. We run a segment every now and then with, you know, Princess Grace and other people called G-Code, the greatest celebrity of all time. Was Marilyn Monroe the greatest celebrity of all time?
Marilyn Monroe is the greatest celebrity of all time. Who else? Who else? I mean, who else's face is everywhere? There's nobody like that.
What ifs do you ask yourself? For me, like, I think, what if one of those children that she miscarried was born? Where would that person be? That's always one of my first ones. But what if would you like to know the answer to?
I would have liked to know, you know, to see the roles that she would take on. She was interested in playing Grushenka from the Dostoevsky novel. She was interested in A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. She was interested in some very ambitious work. I would have been interested if she'd continued to work with Strasberg. How cool would it have been if Lee Strasberg, Marlon Brando, and Marilyn Monroe had a company together? That would have rocked. Can you imagine the product that they would have, the films they would have made?
Yeah,
like the sexual energy between Marilyn Monroe and Marlon Brando? That would be just epic. We could have had so many great pictures. So yeah, I'd love to have seen more of those movies.
You mentioned Brooklyn right there, and it was really funny to me to hear that she wanted or planned to one day retire in Brooklyn. Was that just so she could wear skinny jeans and have a mustache tattoo on her finger or something?
Big old hat and a hoodie.
Yeah.
No, Marilyn, you know, and I live in Brooklyn. So to hear Marilyn Monroe in 61, I think the interview is saying that her desire was to grow old and retire in Brooklyn. She was so, you know, now everyone said, oh, Brooklyn is the new Manhattan. But back then, she was so ahead of her time.
Yeah, absolutely. Creatively, you chose to present this documentary in a unique way that I've never seen before, which is having these celebrities kind of dance around her words and present them in their ways. But, like, equally interestingly was that they each choose to do it in their own way. Some of them kind of try and do some sort of semi-impersonation of Marilyn or the person whose words they're reading. Others just read it the way that they would normally do. What was the idea behind that? Why did you want to kind of bring all these familiar faces to us, reading the words of the people of her time?
For Marilyn, I wanted there to be sort of a diverse group, set of voices who would bring out these different energies of Marilyn in their own unique ways. And all of these actresses, I think, the reason they came onto the project was because they had a special feeling or relationship or insight to Marilyn's writings. The documents that we worked with were mostly Marilyn's thoughts about acting and about what it meant to be out there and her process and her work process. So these actresses, like you said you studied with Strasberg, these actresses all had that same experience of learning to act, perfecting their craft, all the fears, all the triumphs. So they had these very special reactions to it, which taught me a lot, and I hoped that it would bring something special to the documents to hear these interpretations of her. They weren't playing Marilyn, but they're interpreting her words through their own experiences. And then, for me, getting to know Marilyn, there were certain books I read and letters I read that really gave me great insight into her life. Truman Capote's essay, Beautiful Child, Norman Mailer's book on her as the greatest sex goddess of all times. Everyone has these, you know, these boxes that they put her in, but they're all parts of her, and they all form this image that we know. So, and they're good words. I mean, Norman Mailer, Truman Capote, Billy Wilder's letters are hysterical. There's good stuff.
Right, and on both sides of the equation, both positive and negative in terms of the way they characterize her.
Right, absolutely.
Were there people that came to you? Like, I assume that there was a kind of a hit list of people that you wanted to read certain things, but were there people who found out about the project who approached you and said, I want to get on there?
There was like 50 actresses lying on my block, banging on my door to ask me to film them. No, I mean, you know, we had, yeah, of course, we had people we wanted to work with, and the people who are in the film are people who like the material. They're people who responded to it. So yeah, there was support and interest from actors who were interested in the material.
And so what does it feel like? Obviously, you know, we've known you with Bobby Fischer Against the World and other documentaries at other festivals. Does it still feel special coming to a place like Toronto and presenting the film here? Like, where does that how does that equate for you?
Toronto, I mean, we're showing the film in a 2,000-seat theater tomorrow night. That's thrilling. I'm really excited about doing that. We haven't shown the film yet here, so we'll see how it is. But you know, it's a major. I mean, all of the entertainment world descends on this city, so it's a great launch pad for the film. And I'm so pleased that Toronto's giving documentaries this kind of center stage.
Absolutely, and who better than to take center stage than Marilyn?
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming in and spending some time with us this week as well.
Thank you. Thanks so much.